The zipper's rasp shattered the midnight hush like a gunshot in my soul, yanking me from feverish dreams of faces I'd buried deep. Heart slamming against my ribs. I bolted upright in the dim glow of my tent, flashlight beams slicing through the nylon walls to catch a shadow tall, unyielding. Rain-slick had crouched just inches from the flap. "Hey," a voice rasped, low and urgent. Not a threat, but a plea wrapped in thunder. "You alone in there. Storm's ripping everything apart out here." I froze. Breath caught in my throat. The kind of fear that coils tight until it snaps into something sharper curiosity. Maybe. Or the reckless pull of the unknown. Jordan Hale, 25 and freshly shattered by a boyfriend who called our love a phase before vanishing into the city lights of Seattle. I'd fled to these Washington wildernesses to stitch myself back together, one solitary campfire crackle at a time. But now, with the Pacific Northwest downpour lashing the pines like it had a grudge, solitude felt like a lie I'd told myself to survive. The shadow shifted, and a hand strong, calloused, with knuckles scarred from God knows what pushed the flap wider, letting in a gust that smelled of wet earth and pine sap and something faintly metallic, like blood or regret. "Name's Elias," he said, his face emerging from the storm's veil, sharp jaw shadowed by a week's beard. Eyes the color of storm-tossed slate. Mid-30s maybe, with lines etched deep from laughs or losses I couldn't yet guess. Water streamed from his soaked hoodie, pooling on my sleeping bag as he half-crawled inside, collapsing against the opposite wall like a man who'd run out of fight. Truck broke down a mile back. No signal. Figured your light was my last shot before the river swallows the road. I should have screamed. Should have grabbed the bear spray from my pack and hosed him down like the intruder he was. But those eyes haunted, yet flickering with a warmth that cut through the chill held me. In the beam of my light, I saw the tremble in his shoulders. Not just from cold, but from carrying weights I recognized all too well. "Jordan," I managed, voice steadier than I felt, shoving the journal aside where I'd scrawled half-confessions about loving men in a world that still whispered wrong behind closed doors. "And yeah, alone. But get in before you drown us both." He nodded, gratitude flashing quick as lightning, and zipped the flap shut behind him, sealing us in a cocoon of nylon and shared breath. The storm raged on outside, wind howling through the cedars like a chorus of ghosts. But inside, the air thickened with unspoken stories. Elias peeled off his hoodie, revealing a lean torso marked by faded tattoos. A compass rose over his heart, thorns curling around his ribs, and I averted my eyes, heat rising in my cheeks despite the damp. "Sorry," he muttered, wringing out the fabric over my water bottle. "Didn't mean to crash your escape. You look like you're running from something too." The words landed like embers on dry tinder. Escape. Yeah, that was the polite word for it. 2 weeks ago, in our cramped Capitol Hill apartment, Alex had packed his bags with clinical efficiency, citing irreconcilable differences while I begged on my knees, tears blurring the rainbow flag we'd hung above the bed. "It's not you, Jordy, it's me figuring out who I am." Lies. It was the world figuring it out for him. The sideways glances from his new job at that tech firm. The family dinners where his mom prayed extra hard over the turkey. I'd driven east from Seattle that morning, tires eating up I-90 until the Olympics loomed, pulling over at this forgotten trailhead in the Hoh rainforest. One tent, one man, one chance to breathe without the weight of what-ifs. Elias caught my silence, his gaze lingering a beat too long. That journal poetry, or hit list. A wry smile tugged at his lips, disarming in its crooked honesty. Both. Probably. I handed him a spare blanket, our fingers brushing electric. Accidental, but enough to spark something dormant in my chest. Mostly just unraveling. You. He wrapped the wool around his shoulders, settling cross-legged like we'd known each other for miles. Not minutes. Carpenter by trade. Wanderer by curse. Grew up in these woods Tacoma side, but life's got a way of chasing you back. His voice dipped, laced with that gravelly timbre that made confessions feel like secrets. Broke down tonight chasing a ghost. Ex left me high and dry last winter. Said I was too much rough edges for his polished life in Portland. So I hit the road, fixing what I can along the way. Turns out, trucks ain't the only things that stall out. The rain drummed a relentless rhythm, syncing with the pulse in my ears. Rough edges, I knew them intimately. The scrape of stubble against skin in stolen moments. The ache of loving fiercely in a society that tokenized us like museum pieces. Elias's tattoos told tales, the compass for direction lost. Thorns for pains endured. I wanted to trace them, to ask if they'd ever guarded a heart as bruised as mine. We talked then, halting at first, words tumbling like the creek swelling outside. He shared how his dad, a logger with hands like oak roots, had caught him kissing a boy behind the shed at 16, disowned him with a shotgun blast into the sky and a Bible verse burned into his memory. Leviticus don't leave room for gray areas. Elias said, voice cracking on the edges. Ran to the city. Built a life of straight lines and sawdust. But love, that shit's all curves and splinters. My throat tightened. My mom calls it confusion. Like it's a fog I'll walk out of. Alex believed it too. Eventually. Said he needed space to be normal. The admission hung heavy. But Elias didn't flinch. He leaned in, his knee brushing mine. A deliberate anchor in the storm. Normal's a cage. Jordan. Out here. In the wet and the wild. It's just us. No cages. His hand found my shoulder then. Steady and warm. And for the first time in months. The knot in my chest loosened just a thread. But enough. Dawn crept in grudging, painting the tint gold through the mist. Elias stirred first, brewing coffee on my camp stove like he'd claimed the space. We ate granola bars in companionable quiet, the floodwaters receding to reveal a world scrubbed raw. Roads probably passable now, he said, reluctance threading his tone. But, mind if I stick around? Help you break camp. Owe you for the dry spot. I nodded, heart tripping over itself. Stick around. Two words that felt like a lifeline tossed into the rapids. By midday, we'd hiked to his truck, a battered Ford with a toolbox rattling in the bed, towed it back with my Jeep's winch. Muscles straining in tandem under the relentless drizzle. Laughter bubbled up unbidden when the chain slipped, coating us in mud like kids in a forbidden puddle war. Elias's eyes crinkled at the corners, that smile unlocking something playful in me I'd forgotten existed. We drove back to the trailhead together, windows down to let the forest breath mingle with the radio's faint static, some old Springsteen crooning about highways and heartaches. Thunder Road, Elias noted, drumming fingers on the dash. Fitting. You ever feel like life's just one long detour? Every damn day. I glanced at him, profile sharp against the green blur. Mid-30s suited him, confident without arrogance. Weathered like good whiskey. Me. Still boyish at 25. All angles and uncertainties. But in his rear view, I felt seen. He pulled over at a overlook. Olympic peaks piercing the clouds like defiant spears. Look at that, he murmured, killing the engine. We climbed onto the hood, boots dangling, shoulders touching as we shared a thermos of reheated joe. The view stretched endless valleys carved by ancient glaciers, rivers snaking silver through the emerald. Makes your problems feel small, doesn't it? But the heart, that's where the real wilderness lies. I turned to him, close enough to count the flecks in his eyes gray with gold undertones. Like hidden sunlight. Elias. Last night. You unzipped more than my tent. Felt like you saw right through the bullshit. His breath hitched. Hand rising to cup my jaw. Thumb tracing the line of my stubble with reverence. Because I know it. Jordan. The hiding. The hunger. I've been starving for someone who gets it. Woe doesn't run when the thorns show. And then, soft as the mist. His lips met mine, tentative at first. Tasting of coffee and salt and storm-forged truth. Fireworks in my veins. The kiss deepening as hands roam mine into his hair. His across my back world narrowing to this hood. This moment. This man who felt like home in the heart of nowhere. We broke apart gasping. Foreheads pressed. Grins mirroring the dawn's promise. Detour accepted. I whispered. And he laughed. Low and full. Pulling me back in. But the woods hold secrets deeper than roots. And as we packed to leave, a distant howl echoed not wolf, but something primal. Warning of shadows yet to stir. Elias's face tightened, glancing at the tree lean. Old logging road up ahead. Folks say it's haunted by loggers who never came home. Ignore it, city boy jitters. I shivered, but his arm around my waist chased the chill. Little did we know. The real ghosts were the ones we'd carried in, ready to claw their way out. The afternoon sun slanted low as we ventured deeper into the hoe. My Jeep rumbling over rutted paths that hugged the river's roar. Elias rode shotgun. Map spread across his lap, pointing out hidden pullouts where salmon leaped silver arcs against the current. Best spot for steelhead this time of year, he said, voice alive with the land's rhythm. My old man taught me that before everything went to hell. I stole glances, memorizing the way sunlight gilded his lashes, the easy grace in his gestures. Romance bloomed tentative, like ferns uncurling after rain, a shared apple sliced with his pocket knife. Juice dripping sweet between bites. Fingers interlacing over the gear shift as we forded a shallow ford. Water splashing up like celebratory confetti. For the first time since Alex. Touch didn't feel like a transaction, it was communion. Two souls sinking in the wild's indifferent embrace. We set up camp at a secluded bend. Tent pitched under a canopy of moss-draped maples. Fire pit ringed with stones smoothed by centuries of floods. Elias worked with quiet efficiency, splitting kindling with an axe that sang through the air, muscles flexing under his faded tee. I watched, mesmerized, until he caught me and winked. Like what you see. City slicker. Come help earn your keep. I grabbed a log, our hands overlapping as we stacked the pile. Sparks jumping early from the friction. Dinner was trout he'd caught with a fly rod from his truck, filleted clean. Grilled over embers with lemon from my pack. Flaky and bright. We ate cross-legged on a log. Knees knocking. Stories flowing freer than the quinault nearby. Tell me about him. Elias prompted gently, poking the fire with a stick. Embers swirling like fireflies. The ex. What broke it? The question hung, but his eyes patient. Non-judgmental invited truth. Alex was safe. Or so I thought. We met at a pride rally in Seattle. All glitter and chance. But behind closed doors, he shrank. Family pressure. Work whispers. One night, after a dinner where his sister grilled him about settling down with a nice girl, he snapped. What if I'm just confused? Jordy, what if the Seuss is a mistake? My voice cracked. Flames blurring. Packed that weekend. Left me with the lease and a hole where my heart used to be. Elias's jaw clenched. Shadows playing across his face. Bastard. Love ain't confusion, it's clarity in the chaos. My ex. Riley. Portland graphic designer. All sharp suits and sharper words. Thought he could sand down my edges. make me fit his gallery openings. When I showed up in work boots to one, covered in sawdust, he laughed mean. You know, Elias, you're embarrassing me. Walked out mid-toast. Haven't looked back. But damn if it doesn't scar. We sat in the fire's hush. Vulnerability bridging the gap. Then, impulsive, I leaned over, kissing him slow and deep, tasting smoke and sorrow turning sweet. He pulled me onto his lap, hands roaming with a hunger tempered by carrion buttoning my shirt, tracing scars I didn't know I had, whispering, beautiful, all of you. The night enveloped us, bodies entwining on the bedroll under stars pricking the canopy, gasps mingling with the river's song. It was tender, fierce reclamation, not conquest. In his arms, I wasn't broken Jordan. I was whole, desired, alive. Morning brought mist-shrouded peace. But as we broke camp, Elias's phone buzzed miracle signal at the ridge. He stepped away, voice low and edged. Yeah, Ma. I'm fine. Truck's good. Be home soon. Pause. Then sharper, no. Not bringing anyone. Drop it. He hung up, face storming. And when I asked, he waved it off. Family bullshit. Old wounds. I let it slide, chalking it to post-bliss jitters. But unease flickered like heat lightning. We drove on, deeper into the park's veins, chasing a rumored hot spring off-trail. The path narrowed, ferns slapping the undercarriage, until a washout forced us out hiking single file. Packs light, hands linked when the ground steadied. At the spring, steam rose ethereal, pooling turquoise in a rock basin ringed by ferns. We stripped, laughing at goosebumps, slipping into the heat that melted bones and barriers. Elias floated close, legs tangling with mine, kisses lazy under the dappled light. This, he murmured against my neck. This is what living feels like. No hiding. But as we soaked, a rustle upstream snagged my ear, not dear, but deliberate. Elias tensed too, surfacing like a seal. Bear? I whispered. Nah. Poachers. Maybe. Or worse. He climbed out, water sheeting off him, grabbing his knife from the bank. Stay put. Heart pounding, I watched him vanish into the underbrush, the forest swallowing him whole. Minutes stretched eternal. Tina shout, sharp and pained. Jordan. Run. Branches snapped, and from the green hell burst two figures, roughneck types in camo. One wielding a shotgun, the other dragging Elias by the collar. Blood trickling from his split lip. Found your little love nest. Queer boys. The leader snarled, voice thick with backwoods venom. Woods ain't for your kind. Panic surged, but so did fury primal. Protective. I lunged from the spring, naked and dripping, snatching a loose branch like a club. Let him go. They laughed, but Elias twisted free, tackling the gunman in a blur of fists and grunts. Chaos erupted, shotgun booming into the canopy, birds exploding skyward. I swung wild, connecting with a knee that buckled the second man. Elias roared, pinning his attacker, knife flashing warning not to kill, but to end. Back off, or I carve your hate out. They scrambled, cursing slurs that echoed like poison arrows, fleeing into the thicket. We collapsed together, chest heaving, adrenaline crashing into sobs. Elias held me fierce, blood smearing our skin. You okay? God. Jordan. Yeah. You. I touched his lip, tender, tears mixing with spring water. He nodded, but his eyes dark now with old demons betrayed the lie. Happens more than you'd think out here. Hiding in plain sight. But they smell it. The difference. We dressed in silence. The idol shattered, but our bond forged tighter in the fire. Back at the Jeep, Elias confessed over the wheel. Voice raw, my ma's church folk. Thinks my lifestyle killed my pa heart attack after the disowning. Keeps trying to save me. With sermons and setups. That's why the call hit hard. Afraid I'll drag you into my mess. No mess, I said, hand on his thigh. We're in this wild together. He smiled faint, but doubt lingered like fog. Night fell as we camped higher. Fire warding shadows. Bodies curled close. Love whispered promises. But the woods whispered warnings, ghosts of prejudice prowling. Ready to strike again. Days blurred into a rhythm of trails and touches. The Olympics, our vast cathedral. We summit Hurricane Ridge at dawn. Breath stolen by the Vista Puget, sound glittering like shattered sapphire. Vancouver Island, a hazy sentinel. Elias hoisted me piggyback on the descent. Laughter echoing off peaks. My chin on his shoulder. Heart full to bursting. Evenings were sacrament. Stews simmered on coals. Stories swapped like currency. He spoke of apprenticing under a grizzled foreman who knew his secret and never blinked. Boy, love who you love. Just build true. And how that man's quiet nod rebuilt him plank by plank. I shared my art sketches in that journal, now filled with his profile. Quick lines capturing the curve of his smile. You're my muse, I teased. And he kissed the pencil from my fingers, turning pages into prelude. But cracks spiderwebbed subtle. Elias's silences grew at night, staring into flames as if reading omens. One evening, after a day chasing waterfall sold Duke's Cascades, thundering like a plaza, pulled a crumpled photo from his wallet. Him and Riley at a beach bonfire. Arms slung casual, but Elias's eyes distant even then. Kept this to remember the good, he admitted, tossing it into the fire. But it's ash now. Like him. I nodded, but envy nipped irrational. Knowing the man beside me was worlds apart. Still, it stirred my own ghosts, Alex's texts. Sporadic since the split. Now radio silence. What if he called? What if this bliss was just another phase? Tension crested on a fog-bound hike through the Hall of Mosses. Ancient trees draped like cathedral veils. Elias lagged, lost in thought, until a root snagged him twisting ankle with a crack that echoed my cry. He waved off help at first. Machismo stubborn. But pain etched white lines around his mouth. I fashioned a splint from branches and my bandana. Hands steady despite the fear clawing my gut. Can't believe I ate it. He grunted, leaning on me as we limped back. You'd think I'd know these paths blind. Everyone falls, I said, supporting his weight. Our steps sinking like a three-legged race. Point is getting up. At camp, I cleaned the swelling with river water. His foot in my lap, toes curling at my touch. Gratitude softened his gaze, leading to slow lovemaking by firelight exploring hurts turned healing. Whispers of, I need you, sealing us anew. But as he slept, I slipped out, pacing the riverbank. Phone clutched futile signal mocking with one bar. A text from Alex pinged through. Miss you. Thinking of us. Come home. Fingers hovered. Delete warring with reply. Elias's snores drifted faint. This man, with his scars and strength, had unzipped not just my tent, but my guarded core. Home wasn't Seattle's concrete. It was here, in the raw pulse of earth and embrace. I smashed the screen against a rock, shards glinting like shed skin. No looking back. Dawn brought resolve, but fate laughed cruel. Elias's ankle throbbed purple. Hobbled steps slowing our exit. Push through, he insisted, but fever crept in, red lines snaking up his calf. Infection whispering insidious. Panic clawed, nearest ranger station hours away. Road washed out again by overnight rains. Shit. I breathed, digging through the first aid kit. We need help. He gripped my hand. Sweat beading. Don't leave me. Jordy. Promise. Never. But as I jury-rigged a stretcher from tent poles and packs, distant engines growled not rescue, but headlights piercing the mist, tires churning mud. The poachers. Or worse. They emerged, 3 trucks. Locals by the plates. Faces hardened under ball caps. The leader from the spring stepped forward. Shotgun slung casual. Heard shots yesterday. Figured we'd check. Looks like you boys need a tow. Elias tensed beside me, knife hidden in his fist. We're good. Just a sprain. The man smirked, eyes raking us knowing. Sprain. Huh. Or did the fags play too rough? Laughter rippled, ugly and thick. Rage ignited. But strategy won. I stepped forward. Voice even. Appreciate the offer. Ankles bad infection maybe. Can you radio Rangers? Suspicion flickered, but rural coder boredom swayed him. He barked into a CB. Static crackling affirmatives. Help en route. But they lingered, circling like vultures. Slurs, slipping casual. Keep your hands to yourselves out here. Ain't no pride flags in the pines. Elias's grip bruised my arm. Fever-glazed eyes flashing defiance. Bite me, he muttered. Low enough for only me. The standoff stretched taut. Rain spitting anew. Until ranger lights crested the ridge sirens a siren's call. The locals scattered. Tails between legs. Leaving us shaken but intact. Medics swarmed. IVs and splints. Airlifting Elias to Forks Community Hospital while I followed in the Jeep. Heart in my throat. In the sterile wait. I paced linoleum. Walls closing like a trap. What if this broke us? Wilderness romance. Fragile as mist. But when they wheeled him out, antibiotics chasing the poison. Ankle Bracide beckon weak. You saved me. Jordy. Again. We saved each other. I kissed his forehead. Saline sharp. Recovery tethered us. Motel in Forks. Days blurring into carespoon-feeding soup. Reading aloud from my journal. Nights tangled in twin beds pushed flush. Elias mended slow. But so did we, conversations delving deeper. Unearthing fears like buried roots. One stormy eve. Thunder rumbling like old gods. He confessed the core rot. Ma called again. Says the church is praying for my soul extra hard now. With that phase dragging me down. Wants me home for intervention. Thinks you're the devil's distraction. Pain lanced. But I held firm. And you? He searched my face. Vulnerable as a sapling. I want you. Jordan. All in. But the pull back. It's gravity. You know. Family's all I got left. Twisted as it is. Conflict churned. A river forking wild. I shared my own fracture, the job in Seattle waiting. Friends urging move on. But a life half lived without him. We're not phases. Elias. We're the real damn story. He pulled me close. Kiss fierce with desperation. Then let's write the ending our way. But endings demand choices. Days later. Discharged and driving south. His phone lit with a plea. Ma in the hospital. Stroke suspected. I have to go, he said, voice breaking at the Tacoma exit. Just for a bit. You. Come with. The question hung. Fork in the road. My heart screamed yes. But fear whispered no other man's mess. Thorns drawing blood. Elias. Please. Eyes pleading. Hand outstretched. Face the ghosts together. I took it. Tires veering west. Into the fray. Tacoma sprawled gray under perpetual drizzle. a far cry from the forest's green embrace. Elias's childhood home squatted on a cul-de-sac of sagging craftsman bungalows. Virgin Mary statue glaring from the porch like a sentinel. His ma, frail in her hospital gown, lay in the living room recliner tube snaking, Bible open on her lap. She spotted us in the doorway, eyes narrowing on our linked hands. "Elias," she rasped, voice thin as onion skin. "Brought the sinner home. Have you?" The slur landed like a slap, but Elias knelt, unflinching. "Ma, this is Jordan, the man I love. And yeah, we're here for you." She clutched the cross at her neck, gaze flicking to judgmental, but cracked with something softer. "Fear maybe. Bible says, man shall not lie with man." Elias finished. Gentle. "I know. Heard it 1,000 times. But pa's gone. Ma. And I'm still here loving anyway. Like you taught me. With grace even when it hurts." Tears welled in her eyes. Not wrath, but weariness. "Your pa. He prayed so hard. Thought he'd fixed you. Then the heart." Elias's hand trembled in mine. "He didn't break me, Ma. Neither will you. But we can heal this family. Us." Days dissolved into vigil, me fetching meds, brewing tea strong as her faith. Elias reading psalms aloud, weaving in stories of our woods one piece. Cracks formed her questions tentative at first. "What do you build, boy?" Then probing, "He treats you right." One night, as rain lashed windows, she beckoned me alone. "You got thorns too, don't you? City boy hiding hurt." I nodded, throat tight. Lost someone who couldn't choose me. But Elias, he chooses every day. She sighed, hand patting mine frail, but real. Choices. Lord's full of 'em. Maybe I've been choosing wrong. Reconciliation bloomed slow. Like moss reclaiming stone, shared meals with her church ladies, who eyed us wary but passed the potatoes. Elias carving a wooden cross for her nightstand, thorns stylized into blooming roses. My own ties tugged Seattle calls. Art show deadline looming, but I stayed, sketching their profiles side by side. Father-son echoes in the lines. Yet climax brewed unseen. Church service that Sunday, packed pews. Organ wheezing hymns. Elias beside me, hand hidden but clasped. Pastor thundered on Sodom, eyes locking on us like targets. Whispers rippled. A deacon rose, voice oily, "Brother Elias, we've prayed for your return. But this companion leads you astray." Elias stood, voice steady as old growth. "Jordan's no strays my path. And if loving him sin, then sign me up. I've walked your fire. Time for grace." Uproar swelled shouts. A Bible hurled, but Ma rose shaky, banging her cane. "Enough. My boy's home. And this one's family now. Sight leave my sight." Silence crashed. Then applause scattered. Brave souls clapping. We walked out into sunlight, her arm in mine, Elias beaming like dawn. Back in the woods weeks later, tent pitched at our spring. Ankle-heeled we toasted with creek water in tin cups. Ma's letters came weekly now, scrawled with "Proud of you, son in Jordan." Alex faded to footnote. A text unanswered. "You unzipped my heart," I said, pulling Elias close under stars. "And look what spilled out life." He kissed me deep, eternal, worth every rasp. In the wilds of America, where rivers carve canyons and love defies storms, we built our forever one zipper at a time. Not perfect, but profoundly ours. And in that, the deepest meaning, to love boldly is to live unbound.